T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes.
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it.
You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world, live and direct from the coolest private reptile zoo in the world. And I have something special in store for us. Welcome to Trap Talk episode 322, live and direct with UK's finest and Canada's finest. What do you know? JP Reptiles, Jordan, and then we have Scott Wilkinson from Scott Wilkinson Reptiles. How you guys doing, man?
Good, very good. A bit tired. A lot of traveling.
Yeah.
I was so full of energy on Saturday,
catch up.
and they just started slowly creeping up on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we rolled in this morning at about 1:30 this morning.
Yeah, about 1:45.
Yeah, it was good.
So, guys, before we get into things and what we're talking about here at the Reptarium, if this is your first time tapping in, do your boy a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. That way you're on top of, these guys aren't even subscribed yet. So embarrassing. But yeah, guys, please let me know what you like best out of the comment. I'm going to say right now, moving forward, until this Reptarium the aquatic legacy next door is built, I'm donating every single super chat. I'm not kidding. Any super chat you drop from here on out goes straight to the aquatic legacy. So don't be shy, because this is all going to Barczyk and the legacy. Okay. So thank you so much for tuning in. Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. Your first time here, buddy. This is crazy.
First time at the Reptarium. Yeah, absolutely. Been meaning to come up for a long time, but never made it. And we planned this about 6 weeks ago. So yeah, fantastic opportunity. Amazing.
What are your thoughts? I mean, come on, Scott. You dabble with a lot of awesome animals back home. You're on Brian's turf around all these amazing animals. Let's kind of give a little bit of a deeper feedback on how you feel about what he keeps. Like, what's the legacy feel like in here?
I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's insane. It's the setup, the animals, and you can just feel the passion. That's more than anything else.
Great variety, too.
The place just feels alive with passion. You just feel it being in here. Just got a great aurora in here. It's good. Pretty cool.
JP, I mean, you're no stranger to the Reptarium. You've been here, I believe, once or twice.
I believe this is my third time.
Third time here.
Third time, yeah. Yeah. I usually make a point when I'm driving in to stop in on the way back.
You drive fast. You pretty much come fast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I enjoy going to Tinley with my vehicle because I can get around. And do what I got to do, come back to Brian's, hang out. We did a podcast once with Brian as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that was a lot of fun. Actually, I did two podcasts with Brian.
Right.
And a lot of fun, a lot of passion, great animals. Every time we come, it's just like, whatever you want to see, let us know. We'll take it out.
Yeah, had the keys to the whole place. It's fantastic.
So I want people to kind of know out there exactly your relationship here with Brian Scott, because here's the thing. I came over yesterday, had the pleasure of seeing Brian, and he asked me who I knew who was coming. You and JP were the first people to come out of my mouth. And not that he doesn't like JP, but man, he was like, man, I love Scott. Like, told me how far back you guys go.
Did the same thing with me.
Yeah, and that's kind of awesome to hear, because I'm like JP. Me and I have kind of the same as far as how long we've been in the game, about 5-6 years. So any kind of opportunity that me and JP get like this, we just kind of we just go off the board. Like, JP, I see your excitement the same way I have it, right? But Scott, you go deeper than this with Brian. You know what I mean? And let the people know how.
Yeah, I probably known Brian close to 20 years. Brian's always been one of the guys that always had time. He's never once did I phone him and the phone didn't answer. And you felt guilty burning up his time. You'd kind of be chatting away, and he seemed to just be happy to carry on talking. And I'm thinking, this guy's got to be busy. Surely he's got better things to be doing. I'm not buying anything off him. I'm just talking, and he's so generous with his time. But yeah, I mean, this is before he even started his YouTube. So I even had the opportunity. I think it was 2011. Brian came over to visit the UK. He come and stayed, and I never forget. He was pretty adamant he had to do his YouTube I think he was trying to post something up every day. And he was round at my house, and I had really sketchy internet. In fact, I think I was on dial-up internet. And you should have seen Brian's face when he was trying to get this video uploaded. He was panicking. But we got it uploaded in the end.
I have a similar story.
What's that?
With Brian, same thing. Like, the first time I met him was in 2019. He came to the Toronto CRB. No, 2018. Anyways, he came out with Brian Cusco to the Big Canadian Reptile Breeders Expo in September. And they had gotten a hotel. And I remember him messaging me at the end of the day saying how he needed internet. And the hotel's internet was really bad because, and he really wanted to get his vlogs out because he was daily vlogging. And he was doing all of his editing back then. He'd be up for 4 or 5 in the morning. So he was like, JP, can I come by your house and upload a vlog and do it at your place? I was like, sure. I got the world's fastest internet. I mean, it takes me 2 minutes to upload a 4K video at 1080p or at 60 frames. So he came by the house. Him and Cusco ended up staying. I had just moved into that house at the time, and I only had one spare bed, so Cusco was on my couch. And Brian was, I remember he was up till like 5:30 in the morning before he got his video out, and then he slept for like an hour, and then they were out the door by 7. It was absolutely crazy dedication that he had.
Nonstop.
I don't want to stop the talk on the work ethic behind Brian, because I'll never forget how exhausted I was when I first came here. And if whoever doesn't really know the backstory with that, Miguel Garcia, shout out to Miguel Garcia, always evolving pythons, man. I was supposed to fly to my very first tinling to meet Miguel and a bunch of people, and then COVID happened. It was literally when they declared, the what do you call it? The pandemic, right? Where flights were stopping and Tinley shut down Tinley. I land Thursday, 7 p.m. Chicago time, and then find out right then and there that they went ahead and canceled Tinley. So I freaked out because, at the most part, I just finally got my wife comfortable trusting me to go ahead and go do reptile shows and go meet with people. And then this happens. And so honestly, I remember going from, oh my God, I'm finally going to Tinley to like, I cannot believe this shit. I want to go home. And so all I want to do is go home. But then Miguel being Miguel, all hyped up, he was like, no, man, please do me a favor. Stay the night in Chicago somewhere. I got you a plane ticket to fly to Detroit, and we're going to go meet Brian Barczyk. And I was like, what? And so all of a sudden my energy went from like, holy shit. And so full mode, Ryan McVeigh, I go to Ryan McVeigh's house. He lets me crash on his couch. My flight's at 6:15 a.m. In O'Hare. So anyways, long story short, I hardly slept at all. No sleep. Get to the airport, shaky ass flight to Detroit, take that 1 hour lift to meet Miguel. And man, I was just on fumes, man. I was on fumes. And then Miguel, of course, starts panicking. I finally meet Miguel after everything, and he's like, I'm going to go home. I'm like, dude, what? what do you mean you're gonna go home? We haven't even met Barczyk yet. And he's like, dude, I have to go home. And I'm like, dude, I haven't even rested yet. So he's like, no, but we're still gonna see Barczyk, but I'm gonna go home. I'm like, so we're gonna be seeing Barczyk for 2 hours and then go home? And so he's like, no, you could stay. And I got panicked because like, what am I gonna do? Like, I never met Barczyk. I'm like, am I supposed to just be lingering? Like, I don't want to be that weirdo. And I'm very like, when I travel, guys, I plan. I like to plan for stuff like this. So I put everything in Miguel's hands, and everything was just like all over the place. So, anyways, long story short, man, I come in, I meet Brian, and before I could even meet him, I got to tell you, this place was full. Like, I'm talking about full to the max. And I remember seeing them. Like, I remember.
So you weren't here in the early days before the second part?
No, that was 2.0. I was at the 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
That was my very first time here. And I'm over there where those two guys, where Mark Bailey and Josh are at over there in that the tortoise pen. I'm over there just sitting and watching him go from family to family to family. And dude, honestly, I like to read people. Like, what I mean is like, Barczyk has a persona on camera, right? And you think, let's see how he is in person, right? Man, like his face lights up to talk to people like if he's on camera, bro. And the energy doesn't get flattened. I thought I was like, dude, by the time I say hi to this guy, he's gonna want everyone. He's gonna be like, dude, fuck you, friends. Like, I thought he's gonna be so burnt out. No, the guy does not get burnt out, man. And we met, we hugged. He treated me like he treated all the other visitors, and the rest is history. Here we are, man. And it doesn't get old, man. Think about how many places you guys enjoyed seeing for the first time, and I think you could go on with never seeing that place again. All due respect, like that's a nice collection. But if I don't ever see it again, I think I'm okay. This is not this place. Like this is a Disneyland for us. I mean, us keepers, what we love, the energy, the people around us. I feel wholesome right now. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it.
So JP, what would be your overall mission, man? I mean, let's just say with the Reptarium. I mean, you have a kid. You have a beautiful daughter. How old's your daughter now?
She just turned 2 on March 6th.
So. I'm not gonna lie. I don't ever see myself being somebody traveling with a young kid. I mean, I'm just saying, like a toddler, I'm okay. I mean, if we have to go somewhere, we have to go somewhere. But when would you like to bring your daughter for the first time to the Reptarium? And obviously the
we've had a lot of conversation about it. Like I know some people travel earlier than others. It's just my daughter is like very determined, and she's just so like wants to solve problems, and she's just very driven. And we feel like when she gets closer to 3. So maybe by the end of the year, then we can start taking her out places like this, traveling to other countries. And I want to start her early. Like I want to get her exposed to the animals early. And what a better place to do it, right? You can take somebody to the zoo, but all you're going to do is walk around behind the glass and look in. Whereas you come here, yeah, it's not as big. It's not much diversity as a massive zoo. But guess what? Every animal's going to be pulled out. We're going to get taught about it. You're going to get to touch it, experience it, and it's just we've never been anywhere that you can get that kind of hands-on experience with these types of animals, you know, and it just inspires the younger generation to not only preserve, but to give a crap about wildlife and give a crap about reptiles. And
if you don't see things and interact with things, you lose interest.
Exactly.
So places like this are vital.
So I want to start her very early.
I specifically wanted to start things off with you two. We have quite not a lot, but we have people in here I would love to sit down and talk to. But with you two, both heavily invested in the ball python game. JP, you got to be one of my most favorites. I'm not gonna lie, man. Somebody who's really proven a lot of people wrong throughout the last few years. Doubted, and you have work that just speaks for itself. But when you think of ball pythons and Brian Barczyk, what do you think of?
The beginning,
yeah. Like back in the I always say when I talk to Brian, there's so much knowledge pre us. Like the last 5-10 years of what it was like during the peak call days when they were bringing stuff out of the wild, the first tides, all the big times back there, and the way things were marketed and sold. There's just so much of a difference, and there's just a lack of information to know, like all of us coming in today, what had to happen 20 years ago for us to get to where we are today.
Jordan asked me an interesting question while I was driving up. He said, Scott, you think you're going to spend big money again on ball pythons? You're going to invest heavy again? And I kind of said, the difference is, Jordan, when I was dropping the money you were dropping, I was in 2 gene codons.
Pastels.
Yeah, featuring pastel. 2 gene codons for
how much?
$15,000.
What was the most expensive
18
ball python ever sold?
$15,000 for a pastel. Think about that time.
18,000 for a banana.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, things are changing. It's never been better to be into ball pythons.
Yeah.
Without doubt. I mean, even walking around the show, I was planning on doing a vlog on how the ball python market is really sort of.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong,
It
but
certainly isn't.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Brian was in this game pre-Tin Leagues, and like the shows weren't around since the beginning, right?
Yeah, Brian in terms of reptiles, yeah.
Yeah.
You know his albino Burmese is what started it all, because that's the snake he was able to make that first $18,000 off of.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Off one snake.
But Brian's been there since the very beginning.
No, so Brian has very close ties to people that we don't really hear of nowadays. We want to talk about like the Bells, right? The Barkers, Pete Call, like all these people that were basically the grounding foundation of what we do today. Brian had close relationships. Dude, Bob Irwin is his homie, bro. That like, to me, and I don't care what anyone else thinks of this, Barczyk's my Steve Irwin. Like, in my eyes, Barczyk is, I grew up on Steve Irwin, okay? But there was a long period where I didn't get to see any Steve Irwin for a while. Now I'm back into this game where these animals are my life. It's my livelihood. And now I have someone in my eyes who's doing just as much, if not even more, on putting animal stuff out there for people to love. It's Barczyk. And you know, what more validation you need when Bob Irwin's his homie? I just, it's wild to me, man.
Now the people that he's reaching today, like Mr. Beast, and all these other people, bringing so many more eyes on the industry. I mean, what he's done for this industry.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody can fill his shoes.
There's no denying the volume of people Brian has brought into reptiles. That's kind of undeniable. Anything else can be debated, but the amount of attention and people that have been brought into the industry off the back of Brian and the energy and effort he put in.
Brian Potter at the show said it the best. He said there is not one person today breeding a reptile, not just balls, but a reptile, that is not at least indirectly benefiting off Brian and his following. Right. All of us have benefited in some way off of what he's done, and we all need to be thankful for that. And he said it the best.
Listen, we're gonna have the other half of the UK players sit in with us, but JP, before we let you go, one big reason why you love the Reptarium, or hold on, one big reason why you should come to the Reptarium, and your biggest reason why you love Brian Barczyk.
Like I said, the Reptarium is amazing. You get to come in and just handle animal. Like today, I just picked up the biggest snake I've ever touched. Like that.
And squatted. He squatted.
Did you touch it?
I would.
Did you pick it up?
No, I'm like, the snake weighs 200 pounds. You guys, JP, it's 100 pounds. Relax. But to me, it felt really big, right? So
no, I'm being serious. Did you actually end up touching it?
Are you making one of your British innuendos again?
I know, the snake.
I can never tell with this guy.
Why you love Brian Barczyk, buddy?
Again, just his energy, what he brings to the table, and everything he's done for the industry. Like I said, I'm very fortunate to be able to wake up every day and do what I do as a living now, and support the family. And whether or not I've done business with him directly has no effect. What he does brings business to my table, indirectly, and we've all benefited from it. I'm forever thankful for all that. So, yeah. Thank you, JP. I appreciate you being hanging out all day. JP Reptiles, go give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you, JP. Enjoy. Tom, come on, Tom. Wolfie Royals in the building. Sit down. This guy is very tall, by the way. Like, man, good to meet you, man. I had a great weekend with you.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Can we take the chair away?
I don't know. That's gonna look very appropriate where their mic will be hitting. I'm not gonna lie. Whoa. Who's this guy? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if he wants to come in. Does he want to come in? Guys, I'm going to step away for a little bit. Come and have a seat. I'm out, guys. He's in. Let's go. Give it up to Brian Barczyk.
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
How you doing?
He's taking over the podcast.
Yeah. Sorry I was gone for MIA for the last little
bit. So how do you know Brian?
How do I know him? I know him well. He's got a messed up mind. But yeah, no,
he's got some pretty cool animals. We literally have probably molested pretty much all your animals.
Good, I like that. That's
one
what
more another.
I was hoping that.
And we're all in one place.
Oh no, but I'm telling you, it's hard pressed to get bit here. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple animals like obviously Lucky the Amazon tree boa and a couple things, but I tell you, like it's things just don't bite here. Period. You know, I mean, they're so docile and they're so used to being handled. So
Why do I feel that now you've said that I don't want to touch anything
yeah,
anymore?
it's funny how we say that with like whenever I was in Australia, every guy that told me their black-headed pythons didn't bite bit me.
Yeah.
Every single. Now my blackheads will bite, by the way.
They will.
They will bite. They will bite.
Well, see, now I feel safe handling those because I kind of got a feeling they won't bite.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's how things
Well,
work.
it is, as long as they don't think you're food, they're fine. And if you know, basically what blackheads are so food motivated, they're not like aggressive, so you can handle them. But as soon as they get to your skin, they just go like chomp because they think they can eat anything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so yeah. So other than that, I'm trying to think. There's just not much else here. Everything else is so.
What about the obviously the crop?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, both salt
What's
and
his name?
the track line.
Kush.
So it won't bite. It won't bite.
No.
You know, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you can totally handle it. The problem is it's not tame to where you
But
can.
it's not aggressive.
It's not aggressive.
Yeah.
So basically, what happens when you pick it up, it's a little bit reactive. It wants to get away from you, so it just rips you up a little
doesn't
bit.
want to be there, but he's not aggressive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never had him for the last year and a half or so. He won't try to bite you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so I mean, you know,
Which is a good thing.
yeah. I mean, he's not one of those.
Not good
he's
bite.
not one of those croc monitors that you know, you can pet its face.
Yeah.
But you know, it's very defensive.
You notice when you open the door. So we only open the door.
We could take it out.
But you can see that it's processing.
yeah. Oh, it's so
You can
smart.
see that it's looking. It is processing what's going on.
It's the only monitor that I've got that will dilate its eyes on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
literally its eyes will go and
Yeah,
dilate out.
it looks its face when you're doing something. It looks like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Now it's
thinking.
interesting. Kevin, who of course you know, McCurley, who I think is one of the smartest guys in reptiles.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't necessarily think that croc monitors are smarter than water monitors.
Okay.
What he thinks is that croc monitors are very reactive, whereas water monitors process more.
Okay.
So like a water monitor, he says when it opens cage, it's thinking like, okay, what's going on, blah, blah. Whereas a croc monitor is more like bite and think later.
Yeah.
Or whip and think later, you know. So that's what he thinks. I don't know what the truth is. I mean, I know water monitors are absolutely incredible, but croc monitors are as well. So
Yeah, Kevin can read animals very well.
oh my God, I personally think he's the best in all of reptiles.
Yeah.
I really do. I
How
think
much work do you typically have to do to get to work and tame these animals down?
Well, so it's interesting, you know. I always say this is what I always say that you can make a good animal great. You can make a bad animal good, but you can't take a bad animal and make it great, right? So it's, you know, as we're getting animals here at the Reptarium, we're like trying to look for like the best to start with.
Yeah.
And then we take them from like a good, like mellow, understanding animal, and then we create a relationship with them to where, you know, I think that's the biggest thing that you've got to take out of it is when you're taming the animals, is like they have to like every interaction has to end well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so they can't have this thought in their mind like, oh, that was a terrible experience, because next time they see you,
And it's probably
they
the
think
last thing that you do with them is what's going to stick in their mind the most.
absolutely, like say Salt, the albino alligator. Like every now, you know, when she was a baby, she was great all the time. For the first 2 years of her life, I mean, she was like a puppy dog. I could hand her anywhere. I could pet her face. I could do anything I want. And then she realized she was an alligator, you know. And I always say that alligators go through teenage years where they, like, as youngsters, you can really tame up. But again, Salt and Pepper are a good example. Salt was a good animal that we made great. Pepper, and by the way, I saw the picture of you holding there. That was awesome.
It's good.
Pepper was not a good animal, and it's just not going to be able to be handled. You know what I mean? It's like you're never going to tame that animal down because it just doesn't have it in it. But nevertheless, when Salt just gets like wonky, I won't put her back. She has to be calm before I put her back.
Yeah,
There's
makes
no
sense,
way.
yeah.
And the other thing is that she comes out, like sometimes I'll take her out for a tour or something like that, and she'll be like, you know, she'll be a little bit wonky, and they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. If I put her back now, she wins.
Correct.
And now she thinks all I have to do is be bad, and I'm not going to be handled. So I have to win every single time. And so that's how you kind of build the it's like training. Whenever you're training an apex predator, you got to train them in a way that you're always the leader. You know, you're always the one that wins. But then at the same time, you can build this amazing like relationship to where every time you've interacted with them, it's like been a positive interaction. You know, even if the animal's a little bit hyper to begin with, you can still make a really, like, never grab a, I mean, if you grab a monitor or even an alligator, like, you just destroyed that relationship,
Right away.
and you may never get it back, ever. Maybe 1 or 2 times of really mishandling an animal can stop its progression forever.
Yeah.
They remember that. But as soon as, you know, like, I've had, like, Nile monitors where people have been like, oh, man, this Nile monitor is crazy. And, like, I'll pick it up, and instead of grabbing it.
Do you think they recognize individuals?
I think they, you know, this is what I think. I think that, like, I mean, some of my animals absolutely recognize me over. Like, you know, Bella, the iguana, the rhino iguana, she'll come to me and to no one else. You know what I mean? And but I think beyond that, like, if I'm dealing with, like, let's say an animal I don't know that's not mine, I don't necessarily know that they obviously don't know me because they don't know me, but they probably sense my. I don't think that like animals sense fear, but I think they can sense the confidence.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like calmness and
it's like I always say, if you're going to go in at an animal, the last thing you want to do is like slowly go in it, because now they're thinking, I'll bite you. Yeah. But if you just go in and pick it up, it's like, okay, before it knows what's going on, it's just there.
So the more you hesitate.
Yeah, no hesitation, and I just don't have any fear of, like, getting bit. I don't have any fear of the animals. So like any animal, but like I said, going back, I remember there was one Nile monitor in particular. I was up in Canada at a CRBE, and they had this Nile monitor, and they had gloves on their hands, like this, and I just went over there, and I was like, you know, let me give it a go, you know. And I picked it up, and I never grabbed it. I went from underneath, picked it up, and it was scratching me, and I was bleeding from the scratching and stuff like that. And I was running. It was a decent size, you know, like maybe 3-footer or so. Decent size. Within like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, literally, it was just like calm. Yeah. Just calm, you know. Yeah. What we got here? Sue and Anthony are with me now to order. I'm sorry, my eyes are working. In outer space, we are gathering up positive energy to send your way. Thanks, Cliff and Alan. I appreciate it.
By the way, Brian, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Just so you know, every super chat here and moving forward is going to get donated to the Aquatic Legacy. I mean, dude. I love you, brother. You're the best, dude. And listen, these are Scott's first time here. Scott goes back years with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other forever. I remember the first time I met you in Daytona, and then of course you treated me so great when I was over in the UK and stayed at your house.
Except my internet.
Yeah,
my internet let you down.
That's all right. It's all right. I know that door is horrible. It's got such a horrible nose. No, the internet was fine. I mean, it was.
We got there.
Yeah, we were fine.
We got there, and we had enough time to get to the Indian. We got to the Indian afterwards.
Oh my God!
I think that was your first Indian.
You know, it's fun. It's funny. I tell people this all the time, that like certain experiences change your life forever. And like you said, that was my first time I ever had Indian food.
Yeah.
And I love Indian food, and I kid you not, I swear to you, Scott, every time I have Indian food, I think of you. Every single time. Much like for instance, like I love oysters. I hated oysters until I went with Robin Markland down to New Orleans, and we had oysters, and I loved it. And so, like, to me, food, although now my food is a little bit different because I can't really eat the things I want to eat anymore. But the food was always a trigger for an experience.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember going out. We ate twice there, didn't we? Like 2 nights in a row, I think.
Did we? I can't remember where Indian. Did we have Indian 2 nights in a row?
I think we had
Possibly.
Indian the first night.
There's not much round where I live.
I think we had Indian the first night, and then we are going to do something else the second night. But I liked it so much, we went back and did it again.
Yeah, most likely.
So no, it was great. I miss it over there, and you know.
When you was out, I had the rears. Remember them?
Yeah, I remember the rears. Yeah, I remember them well, actually, up in the backyard.
That was good. Yeah.
And the little snake barn was awesome. And, you know, I remember you showing me all kinds of stuff out there. There was like, gosh, what did you have that? Like, it was like kind of cutting edge at the time. I think it was like Super Mojaves or something like that. That was like cutting edge at the time. You know what I mean?
It's embarrassing now what was cutting edge at the time. It's embarrassing when I realised what I spent. Jordan was asking, I spend him what he's dropping on 3 gene recessives. We would spend on 2 gene codons.
Yeah, codons. Yeah, exactly.
Like, wow.
It's come a long way, and even now, you know, it's like, you know, I've been out in the game, so to speak. I have some cool animals, but I don't have anything like insane like most of these guys. And like I go to, you know, Justin's, or I go to Miguel's, and
I've still got a clown I bought from you.
Oh, really?
I mean, you're out bull fighting now, so I don't mind saying it. It's the worst fucking clown I've ever bought.
Oh, no.
It took 9 years to breed.
Oh, my gosh. 9 years.
9 years to breed. But
Yeah.
she did breed.
Good.
And she laid a good clutch, and she paid for herself in her first clutch.
That's
And
awesome.
9 years was fine.
9 years.
I'm
That's
patient.
all. 9 years. That's all. And, you know, but the patience is important. But I was surprised that Justin told me this story that he actually his whole clown project started with my clown.
Yeah.
A clown he bought for me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, now he's such a clown guy, and it's pretty amazing. And so we brought in, I don't know if you know the story, we brought in a adult clown female from a guy named, well, it came from Emmanuel Noah, but a guy named Joe Fossey down in the Tampa area. You remember Joe Fossey?
That's where that
Yeah,
came
yeah.
from.
Yeah.
I remember Emmanuel. I don't know Joe.
Yeah, so
Because
Joe,
you had like, I remember a huge tub of all blade clowns
Yeah.
down, and I think it was Daytona.
Yep, Daytona. Yeah. And it all came from that original female, and that female was actually, like I said, Joe Fossey sent me a picture of it, and he called it a jungle. And this is like pre-internet, so he sent me literally a picture of the animal. I flew down there, and I remember exactly what I paid for it. I paid $1,500 for it. It was a big adult female. Ticks everywhere. I mean, ticks everywhere all over it.
Wow.
And got it back. And I ended up buying, interesting enough, the animal I was the most excited about was this like black and yellow. I mean, it looked like a bumblebee. It was absolutely gorgeous. It wasn't like a type A jungle that turned out to never be, you know, genetic. It was like something completely different. I'd never seen, like velvet black and yellow. And that was the animal I was really excited about. Then I bought the clown. I bought like 5 other animals. I dropped about 10 grand. And then that same year, Noah sent Tracy and Dave baby clowns. I think it was like a pair or a trio of baby clowns that, you know, someone had hatched in Africa. They named them clowns. I still had my MARC jungle. And actually, ironically enough, I bred that female that year. She crushed mice from the start. Would never ate a rat her whole life. But she ate like 12, 15 mice at a time. And so that year, I got her, literally the same year. I got her in the summertime. And then later on that, you know, October, November, I bred her to an albino. And so the first actual clown type animals I produced were double head albino clowns. And then of course we raised them up. And then really when you bought your clown, it was a pot head albino. Because
now you tell me.
Because
That's like 12 years I've missed out on.
Yeah, because you know,
They have genetic
We
testing
used to be
now.
friends.
yeah.
We used to be
Well,
friends.
because what it was is I raised up one of the male double hets and bred it back to the mom, and that's where the blade clown stuff started coming from. It's from that, and then ultimately we did pastel. And we did a whole bunch
That's
of
funny.
other
That's my first double recessive was albino clowns.
stuff. No kidding.
I hatched 7 males, 1 female,
Oh God.
and I never done another double recessive for another 7 years.
Oh
that,
my God.
That put me off.
Oh my God.
Literally. Yeah, it killed me.
Yeah, it's crazy to think.
That was just
But
such a downer.
I always say like that. You know, it's obviously exciting to see what these guys are doing with all the new stuff. It's really cool. But I like the obviously I'm an old timer, so I like the old timer. You know, like the first things that came in. You know what I mean? Like when you first saw I remember Kevin bringing pastel jungles to the first, or it was Orlando show at the time. It wasn't even Daytona. It was Orlando, and Greg Graziani shortly thereafter did. I remember Chris McQuaid actually brought a super cine. He called it an 8-ball, and it had some pinks in it. And Stan Churis had some.
I remember the
animals.
rumor about cinnamon.
Yeah,
It was something big's happening with the cinnamon.
Yeah.
Get cinnamon. It's about to go huge.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's the same thing happened with yellow belly, right? You know, what I mean, like you know, well, it was funny. The Sutherlands really played a kind of a trick in that one because so the first ivory came in actually through Emmanuel to Pete Call, and that was sold to Chad Brown for like $100,000, but it was an adult ivory. And then the same year, maybe the next year, the Sutherlands bred yellow belly to yellow belly and produced ivory, but didn't tell anyone where they came from. So they started buying up every yellow belly they could because they were like $1,500.
Wait, that was the Mojave, I think, wasn't it?
No. This is definitely the ivory because they were the first ones to have to produce ivories. You know, because they had already done like the Mojaves were still like 15 grand right out the rip.
Yeah.
But yellow bellies were like 1,500, and then as soon as they came out, and it came out that public that yellow bellies were yellow bellies, they went from like 1,500 to 15 grand, like overnight. They were like bang, 15 grand, and it was.
I think I must have got my yellow bellies before
Yeah.
the ivories.
I actually got mine out of. I got mine out of Africa for like $100.
I didn't get that cheap. But
Yeah, so it was. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. There was a guy named Bo Lewis, way back in the day. I'm talking like I mean, ancient history type day, and he was one of the few people. He went to Africa. He was probably the first guy to go to West Africa from America and have boots on the ground.
wow.
And he bought like 150 ball pythons, all like abnormal odds or whatever the case is. And
Dinkus.
yeah, Dinkus,
All
exactly.
dinkus.
And so he sold me like 50, and it was like whatever, like $200 a piece or something like that. He probably paid $8, and I bought it for $200. And he had two animals in there that were called marble bellies, right? And I kept those marble bellies for like, they were both males, and I just didn't have anything to breed them to, right? I was like, I kept them for probably 6 or 7 years. This is before yellow belly. I mean, like before ivory, everything like that. And looking back, I know they were yellow bellies.
Yeah.
So literally years before yellow bellies got produced and got introduced, I had them sitting in a rack, never bred them one time. And then when I downsized all my male dinker projects, they just got sold out for like $100 a piece.
Yeah.
Did
you ever get over to Africa?
I have. Yeah.
Was that with Emmanuel?
Yeah. I mean, I visited Emmanuel. Yeah.
Is he still in?
Oh yeah, he's still around. Yeah. He's still doing this thing. I mean, I think the market is changed a lot over there. Obviously, all the guys that I knew, Jimmy Aquanda and Bienvenu, and of course Patrice was the main guy in Abomey. I think he's now banned from selling because I think he had a bunch of violations for CITES. You had a guy named Edward. I mean, the list goes on and on. I had just, in the flow you had, what was his name? Darn it, I can't remember. Frenchman. There's a white Frenchman, that was in he was the guy in the flow, and or actually he was in Low May, just past the flow, and just wild back then, I mean, it's Eric Bouchard was his name, Eric Bouchard, and
it's dropped down so much for all that stuff.
Well, yeah, now I think it just doesn't really, like it doesn't pay to go there and buy. I think Ian from Outback is one of the only guys that still does it.
Yeah,
he's still in the game.
Are they still bringing in captive
Yeah,
farmers?
yeah, he's still bringing them in. And
I don't think there's any at all now going into the UK.
Really, wow.
None at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Which
nothing,
is a shame because it's killed it out there. There's no why they're not protecting them. There's no interest in them again now.
Well, now what's happening, and I've talked to some of my friends over there, that now they're killing them and sending them to China.
Correct. Yeah.
For food and for leather.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so now they're just decimating the wild and not although they were always decimating the wild, there at least were.
They were putting the females
back because they knew they could recollect next year, and then they were supposed to, by CITES standard, release 10% of the babies that they hatched back into the wild. But I think what they were doing was they were putting 10% of those like hard bellies, kink animals, stuff that nobody cares. Yeah, they're throwing those
feeders.
back.
They're putting the feeders back.
Yeah. So, but it's a shame, like I said. I mean, there were guys over there that I developed great relationships with because I had been sending them money for, and you would send them money all year long. It wouldn't just wasn't just during the breeding season. You would, they would call you up and go like, Brian, I need a new pair of shoes, and you'd be like,
I always needed something.
Yeah, it's like, it's $100 here. And I always said that I actually budgeted $15,000 to $20,000 a year that I was going to get stolen from.
Yeah,
that was
I've heard that from many people.
100%. You're going to get stolen.
Early on in the game, you were doing as much or more than anybody in the States, I think.
Yeah, we were. So in the very beginning, it was like, Pete Cull had the pies. Well, he didn't even have the pies at that point. He had one pie. It was before he got the two female pies from Tracy Parker. He bought the one from Brian Sharp that Brian had for years and never could breed it for some reason. Then, as Pete always did, he got it and bred it the first year and produced hets. And then he ultimately bought another male from Ernie Wagner, which is an imported male that ultimately he sold to me. And then again, Emmanuel Noah sent two females to Tracy and Dave for them to sell and not to keep, but they were supposed to sell it. And like a year went by and they didn't sell them. And according to the story I heard, and this is secondhand story, but they were telling Emmanuel that no one was interested in them. So Pete bought them from Emmanuel and literally just like flew down to Texas and went to their house and said, "Hey, I'm picking up my pies." And they were like, "What? These are my pies?" And they're like, "Nope, I bought them." So that was before Pete had those. So Pete had the one pie. Bob obviously had the albino and the genetic stripe. So it's a genetic stripe at the time. He didn't even think it was anything worth working with. He was forced to buy the genetic stripe to get the albino. Yeah. And then ultimately there was a period of time where genetic stripes were way more than albinos, which I found interesting. But other than that, there was literally Kevin McCurley, myself, and Tracy and Dave. That was it. Yeah, that was it. And then Stan Church came in. And
remember that show in Gurney, Illinois?
Of course I do. Yeah.
And I mean, you had a tape that was, I was late getting in the ball fight. Yeah. Very skeptical. I remember thinking you had a table full of brown ball pythons.
Yeah.
I mean, like 20 feet.
Yeah.
It's like, how many things he's doing.
Well, it's funny. Mark Bell.
That'll never pan out.
Yeah, I was at the Mid-Atlantic show in Baltimore, and Mark Bell came up to me. Ironically enough, I mean, it's a little bit of a gross story. Yeah, I was peeing. We were both peeing next to each other. Story. Yeah, and Mark came up to me and he said something like, he was like, like making fun of me for ball pythons. He's like, "Oh, you go work with your ball pythons, blah 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 blah." And no one was really that interested in him. I was at the show. I was selling, I remember that I was selling albino Nelson smelts for $2,000, and all these colubers were selling at the show, and no one was buying ball pythons. No one was into that stuff. And then like I remember a couple years later, Mark coming up to me, and it was when the ball python market exploded. And I remember him saying it. He goes, "Remember that time when I told you?" He goes, "Man, I really missed it." And I said, "Mark, it wasn't that I had the foresight to know. It was that I just like ball pythons. I always love ball pythons."
You're passionate about every snake there is.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I don't think I've never met a snake I don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even the snakes that are weird, I think I somehow fall in love with them. Even when there's a snake that I'm like, I don't know if I like this snake, but I'm going to get it. And then I end up falling in love with it even more, let's say Indian smooth scale sand boas, for instance. They're kind of a big poop snake, right? And or Calabar burrowing python's another one, And it's like when I got them, I just like, these things are so cool, and then I became obsessed with them. I mean, just like I couldn't get enough of them. So
I think you and Kevin share that.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? And me and Kevin talk about it. It's like how to occasionally detach from the emotion, right? And how I did it, and Kevin probably can't do this, is I stopped selling snakes. Like I have nothing to do with selling snakes. I haven't sold a snake in probably 5 years. So like when people call me like, "Hey, do you have this available?" I'm like, "I don't know. Check my website." What's this cost? I don't know. Check my website or call Lori. Because I, and that's Kevin's problem. Is he wants to keep everything.
Pressure to sell a snake.
Yeah, he wants to keep everything, just like I want to keep everything. It's like just today. I've been avoiding what's happening in the office because we just packed up 90% of our adult colubers and sent them out today and tomorrow. And that was a decision Lori and I made. That was definitely the right business decision, the right family decision, the right decision all in all to do. But man, does it hurt me to do it.
Tough.
It's like, I mean, those animals, I hatched them as babies, right? So I remember them, like growing up, and I remember the first clutches, and each and every animal I remember something special about. But again, that's just the way it goes, and
we're so lucky to be able to raise these things up.
Yeah,
it's just that's the most amazing thing.
Yeah,
pretty much any raising them up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just cool, man. It's just cool to, like you said, probably 95% of the animals I work with, if not more, I had as babies.
Yeah,
and I raised them up, and just see them, produce for the first time, or whatever the case is. Some snakes I won't even breed because I'm like, I just don't need to breed them. I just want them as pets.
What was your intention with the bows? Did you want to try and be
No, I don't think I
Or was
want
that
ever.
just a
Yeah,
single
Yeah,
specimen?
it was just a single animal. I don't know that I'll ever get another one. I think it's just kind of one of those animals that was always a dream animal of mine. And I don't need to try to crack that code. I think it's a hard code to crack, and someone will do it. You know, I mean, it might be barometric pressure. It might be, I don't know. Everyone's done everything, right? You know what I mean? They've
Eventually.
cooled them down. They've done. They haven't put them into a barometric pressure chamber. That might be the.
Do you remember? Was it Jerry Marzek's book?
Yes.
And had all the pythons talking about breeding all the different pythons, and the ball python section was these guys are really hard to breed.
Yeah.
Hardly ever bred, kind of.
Yeah.
I think there was a picture of about 5 all in one viv or something.
Yeah.
Somebody figured that out.
And it was like these. Yeah, no one's really figured these out yet.
Yeah, and that could be the case with the Bolins. I mean, I know boa constrictors for a long time were that way, where people really had a hard time figuring it out. And now I think that, you know, guys like Jeff Ronnie and a few other guys have really nailed it down. I think they are, but I think that from talking to all my boa friends, it seems to be a very specific recipe to breed them. And that recipe is simple in the sense that, like, keep your male super small, like way smaller than you think. You know, if you got a big male, it's not going to do well for you. And then cycle the females with food and breed early enough to do it. So why we don't have as much success with boas is a lot of times by the time we're breeding boas and pythons, it's November, December. It's too late. You need to have males and females together in September, but you have to food cycle in advance. So we food cycle everything we breed, right? Everything we breed. Like we don't drop temperatures. We don't do anything. Everything with ball pythons and all our other boas and pythons are food cycle period, right? Yeah. And so what you want to do is keep your animals lean, not skinny, but lean. And then about 2 months before breeding season, start hammering them with food. And if you hammer them with food, and I'm talking about like an absorbent amount of food just for your females, right? And that is what cycles, you know.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
And it's that simple with boas, and it's that simple with, it's just that it's a different time of the year, and you just have to know. So I know, talking with the guys that are crushing boa production, I mean, like, they have 10 females and every year all 10 go, you know, type of thing. It's like, that's what they're doing, is they're just food cycling. Retics are the exact same way. You know, you can breed retics every month of the year.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what month it is. All you have to do is just food cycle. You know, as soon as you want to breed, then breed, you know, and just start hitting them with food, and then they're going to breed. So, and then Jeff out at El Segundo Pythons, he actually told me that he was getting retics every 10 months to produce through food cycle. So he could, you know, over a 3-4 year period, he would get an extra clutch, you know, but, you know, who wants an extra clutch of 500?
You know, we play with temperatures, light cycles. It's just food.
It's just food. It's just food. It's the simplest thing. And I remember Miguel a few years back he was here, and he was like saying that he was really worried about his year. He's like, yeah, I'm bred 80 females and only like 15 have good follicles. And I said, go home and triple the amount of food you feed them.
Yeah.
I said, triple the food. And he goes, what? And he ended up producing like 70 clutches that year, you know, and so it's no secret. And I share those secrets. I don't care, you know. You know, I want everyone to be successful.
But I mean, that's the beauty about you, Brian. It's like, man, we have people who, like, I mean, I can always sense their tears because you're just giving them the time of the day. Like, there was a guy who had a question about pairing an animal, didn't think you'd even look at it. In an hour and a half, you just gave him your advice, and he was like, that right there goes a long ways. You know how many people just don't have friends in this game? They're you know, it's hard for them to even reach out to people, and you make it easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to anyone anytime about, you know, I tell people all the time that, you know, outside of family, the only things that, like, I care about are social media and reptiles, or animals, not just reptiles, but all animals. Like, that's it. That's all I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about anything else. You know, I really don't have, like, for a while there, I talked about, as a matter of fact, I wear these bracelets, and these bracelets are supposed to remind me of balance, right? That's the idea. Even this one has.
I remember you started with one.
Yeah, I started with one, and people just keep giving them to me, and I keep adding them up. Although this one's my most special one because it's got my son, daughter, and grandson on it. So, but anyway, the point is, this is supposed to, you know, signify balance. And for a while there, I was thinking, like, you know, I need balance in my life. You know, maybe I need a hobby. Maybe I need to do other things. I don't know. And then I just came to the conclusion that, like, why should I do something I don't want to do when I could just do things I love, which is animals and social media? You know what I mean? Like, and so so that's, and I don't care who I'm talking to, if it's someone that has big collections and lots of experience, or if it's a guy that has, you know, a leopard gecko that has the passion that eventually wants to get more animals. I'm going to be the same guy to them because I was that guy. You know what I mean? I was the guy.
You absolutely are. I said to you at the last, didn't I? Just watching you go around, you stopped that. Every person who wanted to stop, you stopped for. You gave them all the time they wanted.
Well, and that's,
just,
you know,
it's incredible.
You know, to me, that just is the right way. Because I guess what happened to me was when I was younger, you know, I mean, the reptile hobby was obviously a closet hobby. And I was like 17 years old and I was serious. You know, I'd already bought albino Burmese for $3,200 a pair. You know, I was like, and that was like, I didn't come from money. I mean, that was like cutting grass, you know, every birthday, you know, my college fund. I mean, everything. I spent it all just literally, I had like $3,500 in the bank from like when I was a kid, just hustling. Because I was hustling. I had, you know, I was making like $120 a week on my, because I was doing like 3 newspaper routes when I was a kid, you know, 3 of them to make as much as I could. And I saved up that money and so I was serious, you know, and Mark Bell helped me a tremendous amount, you know. And what I mean by that is that you know, he lived here, so I was able to go to his house like all the time, and literally I probably was there 3 nights a week helping him clean cages or feed animals or whatever the case was, because he was actually a gas line technician, an X-ray technician. So like the big gas lines that get welded, that's what he did for a job. Yeah, he worked for. I mean, he was making probably, I don't know, a couple $100,000 a year before he quit his job.
I didn't know that.
Before he quit his job, he still went to work every day in this little truck, and he would X-ray gas lines, and he would be the guy that say, nope, the well's not good enough, or the well's good enough. And so a lot of times he was fired. Yeah, so I would just go over there and I'd help him clean and stuff like that. But what he would do, and this is how I really built my collection, is like, let's say snowcorns were $100. You know, he would sell me 10 for $60. And he would do it on credit. He'd be like, take them and pay me in a month. And so I would take the 10, you know, like 4.6, let's say. I would keep 2.3, sell the other ones for $100, and basically get mine for almost free or next to nothing. Sure. And that's how I grew my collection, because I didn't have money. But my point is that I was like 17. And I remember going to. Did you ever go to Millersport, Ohio?
No.
Okay, so Millersport, Ohio was the first reptile show ever. Right.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now.
So theoretically, it actually, the first reptile show ever in the country, maybe in the world, I would assume, was actually, believe it or not, a guy named Rick Harvey's basement, and he did it like 2 or 3, 4 times in his basement. He would just have some tables. People would show up and they would trade animals out.
Yeah.
And then Don Hamper actually started Millersport, Ohio, which is right in the same area, Columbus, Ohio. And
might have got the idea.
Yeah, well, he did. Oh, he was. He went into.
Yeah.
He was one of the vendors in the basement. So he just said, "Hey, let's do this in a VFW hall," and that's what it started. But I would go in there, 17 years old, long hair, no tattoos, obviously at the time, but you know, and no one would take me serious, right? Because it was all kind of like older guys that have been doing it for a long time, and I'm a kid, and I think that's why I still to this day.
Brian, hold on.
Yeah.
You know how much Lori terrifies me. I told her you wouldn't be sitting down for a podcast, so I mean, why are you smiling?
No, because it's.
Are we okay?
No,
do you feel good?
No.
I just want you. Are you?
Yeah,
I don't. You know what I mean?
This takes my mind off things. You
Thank
know, I mean,
you.
talking
Okay.
reptiles and talking things. I mean,
Mark Bailey, man, Mark Bailey.
Yeah.
Like, what are the combined years as far as these two knowing you? Over 50.
yeah,
30
yeah,
and
we
20.
Probably, yeah, we probably
20.
Over 60.
Over 60, man.
Yeah,
This
it's
is so awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brian.
no, it's great. And, you know, obviously it's.
I don't look that old though, MJ, but
Yeah,
You really
I
don't,
got a
Scott.
lot more gray.
Even with your shirt off, buddy.
5 years, I think, in it between us.
Yep, 5 years.
Five,
Yep.
was it 5 years?
Yep, 5 years. Yep. I know. I looked a lot younger 5 years ago too. I'll probably, you know, age a bit here in the next little bit too.
Tinley weekends aged me.
Yeah. I think about, you know, like from a vanity standpoint, I think about like, you know, I've had long hair since I was 10. And to think about that I might not have hair 2 months from now is one of the things that sucks. You know what I mean? I'm like, dang it, I'm going
Yeah,
to
do you have to say that?
Yeah. Well, you still have some hair though. You're okay. You look fine.
You
You
know,
look fine.
you're smiling about it, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's
beautiful
you know,
day out.
yeah, no, it's great, and having friends here is really, you know, a great distraction and talking animals so that's what I mean. That's what I want to try to do the best I can do for the coming months is just be absorbed with animals and wildlife and
So
and
looking
you know,
forward to spring.
yeah,
I
getting
mean,
out
it's
and
like,
herping,
you know,
and
I think I told you last night, very,
Yeah.
This
yeah, here we don't even, and we got a couple piles where they're really heavy.
Is there much around here for herping?
I mean, you
just
don't
wanna
see
get
a
out there
whole
and-
lot. I mean, you see a lot of,
How far would you have to go for an enjoyable day?
realistically, I probably have to go like near Minnesota, really, you know,
Really?
to do,
fly on
to, yeah, because at least you guys have bull snakes and hognose and stuff like that, gophers. But we really only have garter snakes, sometimes racers. You'll find the occasional Massasauga rattlesnake. But I mean, listen, to me, it's not really as much about like what you're catching. Like I get just as excited when I see that garter snake as I do, seeing whatever.
Here's a quick story for you. One time I was out, working my tail off, looking, with
Sure.
some bulls, anything, bull snakes, hog snakes. And I was headed home, and I look up in the sky, it's bald eagle carrying a great big garter snake.
Oh gosh.
And I'm just like, yeah, a little better than me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
thought you was going to
That was-
say
that was
it
pretty cool.
dropped it and you was able to catch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Catch it.
That was the ending. That was the ending I was waiting for.
That would have been great. That would have
If
been
you tell that story again,
make that.
Make that
put
up.
that at the ending. Okay.
It's a much better ending.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's but no, I think that just catching anything in the wild when you see. I remember the summer I spent in Australia catching venomous snakes and we got skunked a lot. Like but like my job was to literally go out at 6 a.m, which was obviously too early. But it was a production, so you would have a call time at like 5:30 in the morning. The crew would get together, the film crew would get together at 6. We'd be out the door, maybe heading to location, be at a location by like 7:30. Way too early to catch snakes, you know what I mean? But
You
the
were
sun
there
was,
when they started moving around.
yeah, just when they first started moving. But there were many days where we would go like all day and not see one snake. But every now and then, when you finally caught one, whether it's a red-bellied black snake or a bandy or whatever it was down in Australia at the time, it was like I remember flipping those rocks and flipping that stuff and seeing stuff and being like, oh my gosh, eastern browns and it was cool.
Man.
Where's your favourite place you've been?
I always say that, every place is so special. Like every place you go, you take a piece of it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Where would you have liked an extra week before that flight home?
Good question.
I still have the two places that I love more than anywhere, continents anyway, is countries actually, not continents. Well, maybe continents. It's Africa and Australia. I was going to say country is South Africa because there's something so special with South Africa. I was supposed to be going in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. We were supposed to be going. Obviously, I'm not now, but there's something special about that place, because like you don't only see amazing reptiles and crocodiles and probably one of the coolest experiences of my life was catching like a 15-foot croc and at a place called Jozini in South Africa. And I'll tell you the story really quick. I was shooting Brian in the Wild, the doc, right? And we had, really, to be honest with you, the whole thing was like, the crescendo was like catching a crocodile. That was like the end. Like the end scene was like catching this crocodile after doing all these other animal adventures. And so we had this guy named Mark, ironically enough, and he was a biologist on Jozini Dam, which was the largest population of wild Nile crocodiles in South Africa, right? There's about 400 Nile crocodiles in this dam and some giants, and so he was the biologist there for a year and a half. So my fixer, was like, hey, can we go catch one? He's like, absolutely, So it seemed like a slam dunk, that's what it seemed like to me. So we get there about, like 8 a.m. And immediately, he's got like a trap set just, with like meat in it, just in case they come up and we could trap it that way. But we have 2 pontoon boats, one for me and one for the film crew. And it was me and Mark, going out on the dam, and he had just a noose, on this long, like maybe 10-foot branch and a noose, right? And it's murky water, really murky water. and there's crocodiles all over the bank. I'm talking 100 crocodiles everywhere you look, right? And we would creep up on the bank, and I get like a foot or two away from them, and so I'm bust into the water, bust into the water, bust into the water. And we spent probably like 6-7 hours, never even getting the noose near the animal, And now the sun is starting to go down just a little bit, right? It's starting to get to the end of the day. We know we don't have much. And finally, Mark is behind me, and I looked back to Mark and I said, bro, like, how many of these have you caught? And he was like, he had been there for 1.5 years, mind you. And he said, well, I've never caught one. And I was like, what? And my whole morale just dropped. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so we only had one more day left. That was it. It was just the end of the whole film was like this day and this, because we thought we'd catch 400 crocodiles in a small dam, easy catch, easy peasy, you know, and especially with the guy that was experienced that obviously hadn't done it. So we went back to bush camp, and I remember everyone had what they call a braai, which is barbecue. And I stayed home that day, you know, I home just in the camp, you know, by myself, just literally in my cot. And I was like, I've got to figure out how to catch this crocodile. And I thought about Steve Irwin. I thought about all those shows I had seen, and yeah, I put together a game plan. And there was just the one thing is that every time you would get close to the bank, they would explode into the water and be gone, right? But there was one area on the far side of the dam that the water is really shallow for about 20 feet. So like when we tried to even go, but I remember the boat driver's name was Amos. He didn't want to go over there because there was hippos, and hippos are super, super dangerous. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, he said on the dam, usually once a month, someone was either taken by a hippo or taken by a crocodile. Every month. So he was very reluctant to go over there. And so, but when we went over there, we had the closest we had was, you know, when they bust in the water, now they're like in only 6-inch deep water, and they're like mud, and they're like trying to get through. So I'm thinking all night about it. Didn't get much sleep that night. Next morning we wake up, you know, nothing's out on the dam yet. You know, it's still you know, it's like 7 in the morning. The sun hasn't even come up all the way yet. Beautiful shots of like, you know, crane, and I mean, just beautiful shots, and just absolutely, and there's warthogs in the distance. I mean, just like Africa, like you can't, I mean, just like, you know, like I was in heaven. And so I told everyone on the crew and everything, I said, listen, this is the deal. I said, we're going to go to that shallow area. And I said, and I told Amos, I said, don't go towards the crocodile. Go where you think he's going to end up.
Right.
You know, I said, so he's going to go 20 feet. He's going to go diagonal. So if you go this way, we're going to miss him. I said, go this way and let's try to intersect him before he gets to the water. And literally, it turned out to be one of the biggest bull crocs in the place, 15 foot long. And first shot, literally the first shot of the day, we noosed it. It gave us a hell of a run. We had to pull it all the way across the dam up onto land. It took 4 or 5 of us to pull it onto land.
Did you regret noosing it, or?
No, not yet. Not yet. It went good. I mean, I was the first one to jump its head, you know, after we got it onto land, and we taped it up, and we did it all for science, right? We took like you know, scutes for toxicology. Yeah. We measured it, we tagged it, and all that stuff. And but the thing is that Mark got a picture. The biologist got a picture of him sitting on the croc, and he said that it was the first time he had ever touched a crocodile in that dam.
Oh, the first time you touched it.
It never even touched one before. And so he was like, you made my year. And maybe I just got lucky. I don't know. Maybe Steve Irwin was looking down, you know.
You had a strategy.
Yeah, we had a strategy. It worked. And so we were you know, literally by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we were drinking beer, you know, like celebrating, you know, the last shot. And it was amazing. So that's what I'm saying. South Africa.
That's a rush.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's a big event.
That's a dinosaur. That's a dinosaur. You know, I mean, it's so like South Africa, and then there's one place in particular in Australia. I mean, I love all of Australia. I've been all over. I've been to every state in Australia. As a matter of fact, my Australian friends always say I've been to more of Australia than they have because I've been everywhere. You know, I haven't been everywhere, but I've been to every state in Australia, and been herping a lot all over the place. And but there's one place in particular that I've been, I think 4 times now, and it's in Darwin. It's called Fog Dam, and it's just a little dam where it's got the largest predator to prey ratio on the planet, right? Even more than the Serengeti. So there's saltwater crocodiles, There's Falskis, the brown water snakes. You know, there's actually the survey was there was one brown water snake per acre. I'm sorry, per yard in the dam. Per yard, one per yard, one per square yard.
Yard's not that big.
It's not that big, and there was one.
What were they eating?
And that's the predator part or the prey part, and it was these mice, and so the mice was the prey, and the predators were crocs and
So
water snakes.
what was there for the mice? To be that number.
You know, well, it was obviously it was like small swampy areas. So I'm assuming just lots of
That'd be
grains and lots
seeds,
of
yeah.
lots of grains and seeds
This
that they
is
must have.
Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I herped that road so many times. Like I said, I was there probably 4 times, but every time I was there, we'd go every night, you know, to do it. And there was never a night that you didn't find at least a brown water snake, a
That's
slaty
little
gray.
scary.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
'cause
you
it's
would
the one-
shine.
You know, it's the one that you don't see.
Well, literally, you would shine the water and you just see croc eyes, you know. And the dam was not the dam in Australia. They call them dams. Even in South Africa, they call them dams. They're not like dams like we think of, like
Right,
cement
yeah.
dams. They're just mounds of dirt, right? And so we'd walk the dam, and like there's only like a 2-foot drop in this water, you know. So if you get too close to that edge, you're in
water,
jeopardy.
yeah.
You're in jeopardy, you know. And those crocs will launch out at you. But I always say, like, I think that 2 or 3 or 4 times I remember sitting there looking up at the Southern Cross, you know, the star Southern Cross, which is something obviously we don't see here in the Northern Hemisphere. And it was warm, and I remember just thinking those times, like, this is the place, as a matter of fact, not to get morbid with you guys, but like my ashes will go there. And, you know, maybe not all my ashes, but my ashes will be on Fog Dam 1,000%. You know, I'm going to send my wife on an adventure, and she's going to see a lot of places, and she's going to have to put my ashes in a lot of places that I want her to go to. So, but yeah, Fog Dam, something about it. Again, it's in northern carryout, sort of. It's about maybe a 45-minute drive away from Darwin, maybe an hour drive away from Darwin. Absolutely amazing.
I'm going to be watching this back to get that location.
Dude, trust me.
I will forget, but I will be watching it back.
So Scott asked you a place that you would want to go to again and again and again. Where's somewhere else you wouldn't go back to?
Yeah.
There's not one place, honestly. You know, I think that the worst places I've been have still been. There's been so many memories. You know?
Has anywhere kind of really surprised you by the expectation? You were. I mean, I went to the Amazon, and I was expecting monkeys and parrots, and there was nothing.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I've been really lucky. As a matter of fact, you know, like when I've been on film crews, a lot of times they've called me Lucky Brian.
Yeah.
Because like it seems like I almost always, you know, like I almost always hear from someone when I go out on a safari and go out.
Does Lucky Brian take a look at shipping boxes with him when he goes out on these adventures?
No, I wish.
Does Lucky Brian make his luck and bring his luck with him?
No,
in boxes?
no. I definitely don't do that. But I can't tell you how many times, you know, people have said, like, I've been coming to this place for 20 years. I've never had a day like I've had today. With the exception of one. And I'll give you one thing. Listen to this back later too. Is that there's a place called Mount Glorious in outside of Brisbane. I think it's closer to Ipswich, Queensland. And everybody you talk to will say, like, have you heard Mount Glorious? You know, have you heard Mount Glorious? And they'll tell you, like, my worst day, I caught 5 carpet pythons, you know, 3 death adders, and like my worst day.
Yeah.
And it's a really reckless drive up. I mean, like, I get car sick, and every time I've been up Mount Glorious, I've been like green by the time I'm at the top. I mean, because it's like boom, 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 all the way up. And I think I've heard Mount Glorious 3 times, maybe 4. I've never caught one snake.
Wow.
Not one snake.
So that was a not so lucky Brian.
Yeah, so that was the not so lucky Brian days, and but everywhere else we've been really lucky and things have been great. But that one, I always hated Mount Glorious, you know. And
so you wouldn't go back.
I would never go back to Mount. I've been to Australia since, and I wouldn't go back to herping Mount Glorious ever. I was like, no, because it's
that one's off the list.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, it's supposed to be epic, and Even Bob Irwin, Steve's dad, asked me that the first time I met him. He said, "Have you been up to Mount Glorious yet?" And I had to like go like, "Yeah, I was up there, you know."
Yeah, glorious.
Yeah, it was great. I got seasick at the top and threw up, and then I had to come back down and you know, and it's always like, you know, like you love herping, but like Mount Glorious was like, you know, maybe like an hour and a half drive from where I was staying, and then it's like an hour and a half drive up the mountain, and then it's an hour or so drive down the mountain. And they usually everyone's like, let's do it twice, you know, because you never know. And you would literally stop with other herpers, and other herpers would be like, yeah, I just saw a carpet python right up the road, you know, stuff like that. And you'd be like, yes, let's go. So, you know, by the time you're done, it's 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm sick, I'm car sick, I'm like, it's 4 in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm just like, I just want to go home, you know, like, can I just go back to sleep now? And so that's the problem with road herping. And I've done so much. I kind of like being out in the bush on foot more, you know, than road herping.
I like
you know?
being on foot too.
You know?
With road herping, do you think the snakes or the animals are going to the road for the heat?
Yeah.
Or do you just think they're just crossing it?
I think most are for heat. I think that
Yeah.
I think the best results are for heat, right? Is you know,
you think that's everywhere, or
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that, you know, that you know, when unless it's not a cool night, you know, and then of course if it's a full moon, it doesn't usually work out well either. So I think that, you know, if the moon's low or don't have any moon, and the night cools off by 10 or 15 degrees, road herping is great because you're going to find stuff, you know,
Yeah.
up on the
So in
road.
Louisiana, it's too hot. They don't
Yeah.
come out during the day at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
road cruising is your only option.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and the conditions got to be right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's still fun.
Yeah, but I'll get out this summer. You know, I haven't been out the last couple years here local. Although I did catch some snakes at you know, in Grand Rapids where I have a place. You know, they're actually on my property and stuff because we're in a real wooded area.
A pair of bull snakes breeding on the highway last year. Right?
Oh
So I
my
ride my bike through that wildlife refuge. It's the first time I ever saw a bull snake, and they wouldn't stop. You know, how they do.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
like,
awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like there's so many cool things to, and that's you know what I say. You know, I've lived a good life. You know, I've seen a lot of things and been a lot of places, and you know, even some of the things that were terrifying to me have, you know, I have tremendous amounts of admiration for the memory. You know, I mean, obviously, I almost got killed in Africa once. You know, by people. You know, but yeah,
by people?
Yeah, by a couple people.
Okay.
And that was that, you know, but it was an experience that, you know, I'll never forget. You know, it was the closest I think I ever came to getting killed before. Well, it's definitely the
Wrong
closest
place,
I came.
wrong time.
Yeah,
Or?
wrong place, wrong time. You know, and just you guys out?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
All right.
Oh, you leaving, Mike? What's it buddy?
But or like I remember when we went to Costco and I went to have you been to Labuan Bajo? I know you've been to Indonesia. So that's like, you know, the kickoff. That's where like the Komodo International Airport is. And stuff
Oh,
like
actually,
that.
yes,
Yeah, so
stayed
you've
there.
been-
Yeah,
yeah.
stayed there.
Yeah.
That was like last year.
Oh yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So it's there's Did you stay on the island then?
Yeah.
There's probably, I think there's only one hotel. I think that
It was a lovely hotel.
it's a lovely hotel. Really, the best
Down on the
view.
bay.
Yes, the best view I've
That's
ever
it.
had in my life.
Yep.
I mean, I think it was the most beautiful view from my balcony that I've ever had in my entire life. And but we drove up into the top of the mountain, where into a Sana. It's called the Sana Ular, and that's where. Do you remember the old Brady bar when he got bit in the butt by Nat Geo by the reef?
Yeah. In the back cave.
That was the back cave we went to.
Did you hike down into the valley,
Yeah,
along the river,
yeah, absolutely.
up into the back cave,
Yeah, into the back.
balance an egg?
Bounce the egg, chop the egg off, the whole shot. Absolutely.
I think I've done the same one.
Oh my God! Yeah. Did you get? How far did you get in? 'Cause
We
it was
were-
hard.
I had my 9-year-old girl with me,
Oh, okay.
so
I went in
we didn't go in too far. I had to take her back out and then went back in again.
You can't breathe. You literally can't breathe.
The worst thing is, although you're wading like waist high and back shit,
Yeah.
but it's all rocks. So
Yeah,
one
sure.
minute,
Oh.
1 minute you're knee deep.
Yeah.
Then you suddenly drop down like this. It's up and down.
I literally
horrible.
dunked my camera in the bat shit.
Yeah.
Because I fell. I felt like boom,
That's it.
and that was the end of that camera. I had a GoPro on. That was the only footage I had because my camera was dead, and even the card was like corrupt. It was done. So I had all this footage going in because we did catch a retic,
Yeah,
And,
there's one in there. I don't know who put it in there, but we found
yeah,
one in there, right at the very back.
yeah.
covered in-
We
covered in shit.
we actually found one at the front, and then we found one towards the back.
Yeah.
And then, but then I split because when the cave kind of got to the point where it was like I could see this much of the opening,
Yeah.
and I couldn't breathe. I was
It's hard
sweating.
working,
I
yeah.
was sweating. I was like you said, up to my chest and back guana. And I remember one time looking up and getting back guana in my mouth. You know,
Yeah.
just because I thought it was raining. You know,
It was
like,
everywhere,
what is going on? And it's just like, and we tried to convince the chief of San Ular to let us stay from nighttime because the idea was that apparently at night the bats start coming out and then the retics actually will go around the edge of the cave and kill the bats as they come out. But he said it's too dangerous. It was a hell of a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
That was good. I took my 9-year-old. That was her birthday. that
oh
night.
my gosh. Geez.
I mean, how cool was that for a 9-year-old?
That is cool, man. It's
She
a
hated
cool
it.
experience. But it's yeah. It's,
She likes it now, but yeah, Daddy, can't believe you took me to a back cave for my
yeah,
birthday.
yeah, for bad shit in
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, like not just a little bit. Yeah,
She won't forget it.
yeah, no, it was. But it was cool, man. Yeah, then getting out and going in the river afterwards.
Yeah,
and
to wash
cleaning
off,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, to wash off was just.
You didn't go to the water jumps where you can jump into the.
No, I did
afterwards?
not. No,
No.
I didn't know. Was that cool?
Oh
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
interesting because
jump up the
afterwards we hiked back to the village and with the chief and some elders, and I remember it was like it was 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And our water had been depleted like way like I was so thirsty, and so we got back to the village and they gave us water, and then I remember sitting on the porch of the chief's house, and it was him and a couple elders, and it was a really amazing moment because like. First off, they brought us hot tea on like 100-degree day after we had just been in a 1,000-degree cave. But we sat there and we drank this tea and talked with the people, but we didn't speak the same language. So we had an interpreter, but it was just so there was a lot more just kind of like body language and there was like I would tell my interpreter, then he would tell him, and then back and forth. But it was a really that was another special moment. I remember I'll never forget that moment the rest of my life. It's just spending time with them.
Indonesia's
Indonesia's
fantastic
amazing.
location.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I wish I could spend more time there because, I had plans on taking Lori there. She has never been.
Yeah.
It's another place that I would love for her to go. I went. The cities aren't the greatest. Like Jakarta. Jakarta's
No,
like
Jakarta's-
it's just so foggy and like muggy and
You get. When you drive out of Jakarta, I got kind of depressed driving out
oh my gosh,
because it's nothing.
yeah,
It's all cut down.
it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's,
We were
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours out before we first saw the first trees.
no, it's a mess. And just like I said, the pollution and
Yeah.
it's but I enjoyed myself. Yeah, I've got a good friend there, Keo, that took great care of us. Yeah, Keo's there. Yeah, he's in Jakarta, and he's very well connected there. So like you could do just about anything there with him. So yeah, no, it's
They just had a volcano.
yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Where
Uh,
Is it outside of Jakarta?
Yeah, it's a while. It's all volcanic, all islands, right? But like I think when you asked me like what was I disappointed in, this wasn't an animal thing as much, but like I thought I wasn't as impressed with Bali as I thought. Everyone talks about Bali being so amazing, and to me it was like a third world Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've not done Bali. I've been.
Yeah,
I've not
it's
done Bali.
I would not go back to Bali if I was in Indonesia again. And that's not a diss on Bali. I'm just saying like it was really cool. There was a bird
It didn't tick the
sanctuary.
boxes you need.
Nah, it was just like dirty, and it was
too
like I was expecting it to be like this oasis, this
Yeah.
beautiful oasis, and it really wasn't. So yeah, it's but yeah, but I still had fun. I still had fun there, and but yeah, I don't know. There's still so many places I wish I could go to. You know what I mean?
It's infinite.
Yeah,
That's the
like
problem.
I always said I would go to, either the Congo or Uganda to do the gorillas.
Wow.
Are you going in May? Oh my God, that was always a bucket list.
Yeah, exactly. Uganda and Congo.
Yeah,
That gets around.
yeah, that's a bucket
Gotta
list.
keep
right
moving.
there.
You got a pretty cool place here, man. I got it. It's
Yeah.
my first time here. This is pretty cool.
I love it here. I mean, it's like yeah. I guess the hard thing is that right, we had COVID kept us here for a couple years, and then we're just starting to get ready to travel again. To start seeing the world again, and because for 10 years, all I did was travel. I mean, there was probably I'd be home for a week, 2 weeks max, and then I'd be to Australia, and then I'd be to Africa, and then I would be to Japan, and then I would be to China, and then I'd be it was constantly.
How was China?
I listen, I like China personally. I really do. I mean, it's a very different world. I think that if I was going to do Asia, I wouldn't start with China. You know what I mean? Like Japan is a soft way to get into China.
Yeah.
It's China is much more. I was surprised at how aggressive the people are in China, whereas in Japan everyone's so timid and passive, and in China they're. I mean, even my guy could grab your arm and drag you through places, and a lot yelling all the time. I remember the one story. Lori and I are huge Disney people, right? And they had just that year opened up Shanghai Disney, and so Lori and I were in Shanghai. And, well, this was after we were in Shanghai, and then we went to Qingdao, and then Beijing, which Beijing was absolutely amazing. Going to the Beijing Zoo and Aquarium was incredible. Doing the Great Wall of China was still
done so much.
Yeah, just so incredible.
Yeah.
And then we flew back to Beijing for one day, and they laughed at me. I mean, everyone was like, when we made all their plans, I said, I want the last day to be Disney, and they're like, Disney? You want to go to Disney? And so Laura and I went to Disney, and but my point is that this is kind of sums up how China was for me anyway. Although I love the people, I love the area, I would go back 1,000 times because I liked it that much. But getting into Disney, which was not popular at the time, right? It's still a fresh thing to China. So I've never been to a park minus COVID that was so empty. You know what I mean? But there was still a line. But the thing was, the line is maybe 20 people to get to the front of the line, and we already have our tickets, right? And it's taking forever, and every single person is arguing about something. I don't know what they're arguing about. I don't speak Chinese.
They're just talking.
They're just.
That was probably them just chatting.
Yeah, I don't know,
It would be a great
Give directions.
But it was literally
It's like having
every
a
single.
conversation with MJ.
Oh, wow, thanks.
But every single person
Sorry,
was going
MJ.
on and on and on, and so it took us a half hour to get to the front of the line. And I keep thinking, when we get to the front of the line, are they going to tell us something that's really bad? Oh, you're not allowed to be here. I don't know.
Americans.
And literally, they just took our tickets, and that was it. And we went, walked in.
No.
And I'm so everything, even when you go to the a restaurant, it's they're arguing about the bill.
It's a fight, yeah.
Yeah, it's they're arguing about the bill, and it's so I don't know what that is. At least that was just my experience. But
Higher stress level there, maybe.
But I will say, it was a beautiful thing to meet people there. I went to a bunch of really cool collections. The keeper of the Beijing reptile house brought us in there, after hours. We had the whole. So what you got to remember is that the Beijing Zoo was built hundreds of years ago just for the emperor. It wasn't open to the
Oh,
public.
wow.
It was the emperor's zoo.
What
So-
year was
so-
that? Do you know?
Oh gosh, it's got to be probably
hundreds years ago?
1500. I mean,
Wow, shit.
long time ago. And so literally there's a river that goes through the Beijing Zoo, and down the river was the palace. So he would in the afternoon, he would, his people would canoe him down the thing. He would spend his afternoons at the zoo. And it wasn't until I think maybe 1950 or something like that they opened the zoo to the public.
Wow.
Prior to that was
there for
100.
1,000 years.
It was there for hundreds of years, where it was just for the emperor's family. And but it was really cool to be behind the scenes, and so the reptile house was cool. It was 2 stories, and it's pretty big. I mean, it was a pretty impressive reptile house, and it was almost all native Chinese animals. endemic to China. And but we got to play. I mean, literally pulled out king cobras, and I mean there was no like oh we can't touch anything. It was like we could touch anything we want, you know.
Kind of like being in this place.
Yeah, exactly. It was, but it would kill you, you know. And so it was a lot of fun. So
was that mainly visiting collections and facilities, or was that actual out there herping, trying to find?
No, there was no herping, unfortunately, because no one could take me out to go herping. I wanted to go, but no one took me out. I would love to go out for sure, but didn't seem like anyone really did that there. So
yeah, it's just not a thing in some places.
Yeah. Just like no, but even the herp societies were about captive animals, and it was just starting to pop off in China at the time. So that was really cool.
Well, what's your thoughts? Have you seen the Indonesian shows?
I have.
Where they actually show the animal is aligned. They've got a tokay gecko on their hands, and they've all got scale perfect tokay geckos on all the different monitors. What's your views on that?
Oh my God. The show I went to in Jakarta was shockingly cool. And I think that the thing that was neat about it was that I saw so many animals that I never thought I would see, like ever, you know. As a matter of fact, I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but there was literally a marine iguana there.
Yeah.
You know, a marine iguana.
I've seen that on video.
Yeah, I had it on video. Yeah. It was a little tiny marine iguana that someone had, but they
must have drifted.
All the way from.
There would have been a storm somewhere, and they've rescued it.
Went all the way over.
Doing a good thing there.
Yeah, exactly. But there was a lot of stuff like
a few of them washed up in Uganda, funny enough.
Cool like desert, like Drisius castius, the desert monitors, and stuff that I never ever imagined seeing in my life.
The examples, some of the mutations they've got.
Oh my gosh,
they literally blow you away.
Yeah, and I did a thing where I was a judge for like categories, and it'd be like blood pythons, and like there'd be 300 blood pythons that you'd have to look at, and there'd, like you said, there'd be mutations that I'd never seen. There'd be specimens that were.
Are they all seen dead time, done?
Oh yeah,
everything they handle.
Handle everything.
Yeah, there was actually a club called the Ferocis Club, saltwater crocodile, and they all carried around. I mean, like 4-foot saltwater crocodile, like babies, like they just carry them on their back, and they you could pet them. Nothing. I mean, and they were.
Most of them were deaf in one ear, though, weren't they? They were missing an ear.
Yeah, from flap. But no, it was cool, man. It was amazing, So I'd love to go back there. I wish that could happen. But
so, someone just sent me a link to a recent one. It was best local snake. And I'm looking at these. And it's just the range and the mutations on these local snakes. It's insane.
What I found really interesting in Indonesia was the fact that the lack of green tree python. They're not allowed to keep them.
No,
they're not. It's illegal to keep them. Right. So there's no green tree python.
Even the Philippines. Philippines, you can have them either.
Yeah.
There's farms.
Yeah, the farms have that permit, but like Bunji's farm. I think there's 3 farms if I'm not mistaken. I know there's. Do you know how many there are?
I don't know. I've only
because I know Bunji's farm, but and then I think there's 2 others, and they all have permits to keep them, but that's it. Yeah, it's very regulated.
Have you been to Bunji's farm?
I've not been to Bunji's farm. No,
that's
I've heard it. I've seen pictures, and actually called him up when I was in Indonesia, and he needed to get permission from one of his American partners, and they turned me down. They said nope.
Do all these farms have American partners and the whole stuff?
I think so.
Yeah.
They're either financial partners or exclusive, like they only sell to them type of thing. Michael Cole, obviously, Cameron Templeton. Those guys are the 2 main guys that get all the Indo stuff.
Pretty much now, right?
Yeah. So
I got a question for you, Brian. One of the most trips, out of all the trips you've taken that you vlogged, one of the ones that stand out the most, because me and my dad watched it, was when you got chewed in the face by that parrot. Or where were you when?
That was in Indonesia.
It was in Indonesia.
That was in Bali. Yeah,
Did it happen live though? Did it happen after, or did you? I can't remember how it went down.
I don't remember if I filmed it or not. I don't remember if it was on film, but I remember. I know I at least filmed bleeding, and I still have a scar. I mean, literally, the parrot went right through my lip. Through my lip. I mean, like literally, and wouldn't let go. It just went, oh, and the keeper was like just kind of laughing about it. He's like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, the bird like through my lip, I mean, I definitely should have gotten a handful of stitches. And That's one of the reasons.
Probably should have rinsed it out a little bit.
Yeah. Just put a little spit on it, and I just
Burst
kept
fluid.
going. A little bit of exactly. You know, it's amazing that I hadn't caught more stuff from the backguana in my mouth and drinking African water out of the tap.
It's the
yeah.
water.
Yeah,
Stuff, you know,
yeah. And the weird thing is, I caught Girardia in Florida,
Yeah.
of all places.
Yeah.
So I've been all over the world, and I catch it in Florida. You know, like, and I've like I said, I've drank water in like regions of Africa that you don't drink water. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm thirsty. I'm drinking. You know, and everyone's like looking at me like I'm an idiot. You know, but
Yeah, that's a little scary, a little sketchy. But you know, you're thirsty, right?
yeah, I mean, I was
I'll stay
always.
thirsty.
I'll stay thirsty.
Yeah.
I'll
too.
stay thirsty.
Yeah, we're in a
an
place
eye on
called we're in a place called Indumu, and we're like 3 hours away from the closest store, and we ran out of water the night before. You know, we stayed the night at a conservation place, and we had to wake up and we had to drive 3 hours to the store to get water. And I was just so parched. I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna drink the well water. I don't care.
You couldn't boil it. You couldn't do anything with it.
I mean, we could have probably started a fire and done it, but we were leaving shortly, and I was just like, whatever. And I remember like all my friends like looking like you're an idiot, and I was fine.
It just takes one time.
Yeah.
You're lucky, Brian. So.
Lucky
Well,
Brian.
Brian again.
up until recently, that I think I might lose my my title now. You know, might not keep going.
Keep the path, right?
Yeah, but you know, there's still adventures ahead. You know, I don't know exactly what they're going to be, but I'm gonna do the best I can do to make the best of it. You know.
Hey, Mark, let's hear your the most memorable reptile show story with Brian. Maybe the Lee Watson days, or the or what stands out the most when you think of Brian and reptile shows?
Well, I mean, we go way back to Lee Watson. I think one of the most memorable, because I just thought you were such a fool, was that Gurney, Illinois, when you had
Yeah, the ball python.
brown. He had like 20 feet of ball pythons.
Yeah.
And they were all
No.
brown.
It's classic.
Yeah,
Retro.
this was when it was just starting.
Oh, okay.
You know, and
Yeah, so there's probably like
I
Cindy,
might have
probably
been a head or two.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
This, and I'm looking at him, I don't know, ball python, but never.
Yeah.
And you know, this one was a little bit different than that. I was losing his mind.
And now look.
And you know, Potter was at that show.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a few other people.
Yeah, it was a fun show. I remember
Yeah,
it was
I think it was one and done.
It was- yeah,
it was
yeah.
a good time. None of us
I remember,
sold
that's
it.
right, and it was right. I remember that Lou's Wildlife Safari
right,
or whatever safari something or other.
Yeah.
He had that giant Burmese python.
He had a giant Nile, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of giant.
Orlando and Wisconsin Dells had
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I passed by there, and he's got this giant Nile otter.
Yeah.
You know, a giant tub,
yeah.
temporary housing, with
Yeah.
a screen top on it. I was talking about that. That was crazy.
Can I take this one
No,
second?
okay, Brian. Thank you so much, guys.
I'll be back.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll be back.
It's Lori. She's pissed. I'm just kidding. That's not. I mean, guys, what do you have to say about?
You're in trouble.
I know, but I mean, hey, guys, I hope you guys. It's worth getting in trouble, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, I did not expect Brian to come on through. But what are we gonna do? You know, like, what a blessing. What do you think, Scott?
That was unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah,
We wasn't ready for that.
yeah.
Brian
That was nice.
is, in my opinion, one of the most humble, gracious, giving people in this industry that I've
Yeah.
known, and I've been here for a long time.
Right.
Just a stand-up guy.
And guys, I appreciate. I mean, just shy of 2 hours of stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to keep him because he could keep talking. That's the thing, you know. And you know, he has a lot to deal with today and whatnot. So
What a pleasure.
it was just an honor and
Was
a
that
pleasure.
2 hours?
I mean, just shy. By the time he gets back, it's you know Brian can keep it going. So we got to do our best to wrap it up. He has a lot of stuff to do. So real quick, finish that story, you favorite show story, and then Scott, if you don't mind, when he comes back, just can you guys go back to the '90s, man? So why don't we kind of talk about something that you guys could think about? We'll just we'll call it a day, man, because we still got to enjoy the rest of our day with each other and everything else. So this was a last minute thing, man. I'm not gonna lie, and this was all about just having us here, kind of expressing our respects to the Reptarium, the legacy. The man himself just walked through the door. So this is a big treat, guys. And like I said, man, thank you to all the super chats. I think we just have just shy of $800 in super chats, which is all going to
Wow.
everything. Yeah. Every dollar. So check it out. Every super chat on this channel from now on until that place is open is getting donated to the Aquarium Legacy. And that's what Brian's going to name it, the Aquarium Legacy. So I can't now wait. It's going to be awesome. Honestly, guys, I think I want Brian just to enjoy his company. I appreciate everyone who tapped in tonight. This was something I won't forget. Mark, thank you so much. You, Mark, I got to say, you know, I love Scott, but you and I built a great friendship over the last couple of years. And the things that you tell me, Mark, live through me, and I get excited to share every story, every piece of information. Not only that, people look at me like, how the fuck do you know this? Because of Mark Bailey, man. And Mark Bailey's coming to Instagram soon. Just so you know, he's coming to Instagram soon. He's coming to Instagram soon. I'm serious. No, I'm going to make sure of it. But guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, drop a comment, give all your love, positivity to Brian as much as you can. To all the Barczyks. I love you guys so much. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. It's a wrap. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Peace. Hey, guys. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.